HOAs were never just about lawns and fences. They were born from exclusion. And today, they've become a billion-dollar money extraction model. Management companies profit when homeowners fail. Let's expose the system built on discrimination and how it still controls our communities. What if the system managing your neighborhood was born from the same laws that once banned entire families from owning homes? This is the hidden history of HOAs and how exclusion became a billion-dollar industry. From the early 1900s through the mid-20th century, developers and lenders openly used racially restrictive covenants to decide who could live where. These weren't cultural preferences, they were legally codified acts of exclusion. Property deeds explicitly prohibited sales to Black Americans, Jewish families, Asian Americans, Latino families, and immigrants from Eastern and Southern Europe. The Federal Housing Administration, FHA, required these covenants as a condition for mortgage insurance, embedding segregation into federal housing policy. It was never about property values, it was about preserving social uniformity by excluding diversity, a policy decision that shaped modern suburbia. In Shelley v. Kramer, 1948, the Supreme Court ruled that enforcing racial covenants violated the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. Yet instead of ending the system, developers privatized it. They created architectural review boards and neighborhood associations to continue the same control, now disguised as aesthetic standards. By the 1970s, these entities evolved into modern homeowners associations, carrying the same DNA of exclusion, but under a neutral label. Today, HOAs are private corporations under Maryland Real Property Article 11B, but they function like governments. They levy mandatory fees, like taxes. They record liens. They foreclose on homes, often without judicial oversight. Over time, what began as community governance has turned into a money extraction model for management companies and law firms. Many profit from violations, legal actions, and foreclosures, not from maintaining neighborhoods. The more fines and disputes, the more revenue they collect. This isn't oversight, it's an incentive to penalize. Even without racial language, HOAs still reproduce inequality. Black, Latino, and immigrant homeowners face selective enforcement. Seniors and disabled residents are penalized for accessibility upgrades protected under the Fair Housing Act, 42 U.S.C. 3604F. Working-class families are fined for conditions tolerated for others. The intent may no longer be written, but the effect, exclusion and economic control, remains. Homeowners now pay twice for basic services, once through property taxes, and again through HOA assessments. This double taxation without representation forces residents to fund private governments that operate without constitutional accountability. And those most impacted, seniors, veterans, immigrants, and working families, are the same groups historically denied access to homeownership. Maryland's HB 1534, effective October 1, 2025, begins closing transparency gaps, requiring open access to HOA records and governance documents. But it's only the start. When private boards act as governments, they must be held to public standards, due process, transparency, and equality under the law. This issue isn't about opposing community management. It's about exposing how a system built on discrimination evolved into a profit-driven mechanism of control. For immigrant homeowners like me, and for millions of Black, Jewish, Asian, Latino, senior, and working-class families, this fight is about restoring fairness and protecting the American dream. If you believe in housing fairness and transparency, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep this work independent, factual, and accessible to those who need it most. This video is for educational and public awareness purposes only. It references public laws, judicial decisions, and historical records. It does not accuse or identify any individual, board, or company of wrongdoing. Nothing herein constitutes legal advice. Views are protected under the First Amendment and Maryland Anti-SLAPP Law, 5807.